Folks, welcome to the program. This, of course, is Stinchfield, the podcast, talking about Big Pharma's dirty little secret. And I'll tell you what, Big Pharma has a lot of dirty little secrets. This one, though, I didn't know about until I started to dig in on the research. Do you know that when it comes to medical textbooks, Big Pharma is the one who is paying for ghostwriters to write medical textbooks? Which means many of these medical textbooks that are used as the gold standard are 10 to 15 years outdated. This, to me, is crazy. And nobody does anything. Nobody says anything. Why? Because the medical schools are getting paid by Big Pharma as well. There are backroom secret deals between the big drug companies and the medical schools, taking in all kinds of donations. There's big money in these textbooks. They rarely ever get changed, and I believe the only solution is to open source the textbooks, but that's not going to happen with the money surrounding this. So now we have doctors literally subscribing to falsities, to things that are medical truth that is no longer medical truth. In fact, the things in the textbooks are totally outdated. Now, this podcast is brought to you by the Wellness Company, TWC.health/grant. That's TWC.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. These are prescription medications, all formulated here in the United States. This is the emergency medical kit that you need in your home. 8 of the most common prescription medications as we face 250% tariffs on medications in coming in from China. This is what you're going to want to have is one of these kits. What if we also experience a cyber attack and drugstores close down? We've already seen this happen. You need these kits on hand in order to protect you and your family. TWC.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. All right, with that, folks, let's get the show started and go through some of this wackiness surrounding the medical publications.
Uncensored and unapologetic. This is Stinchfield. Here's your host, Grant Stinchfield.
All right, it is so great to be along with you today. So as I go through the research surrounding the medical textbooks that many of our young new doctors were using all the way through medical school, it turns out many of these textbooks are old and outdated. That much of the information in them is old and outdated treatments for things. So you've got young doctors being taught old treatments, including falsities and fallacies like food pyramids and the value of excessive carbohydrates in the diet. All of this stuff playing a big role in the destruction of what I believe is our medical community. Because what happens in the end? These medical truths are no longer truths. In fact, I'm not sure they ever were. And the worst medical truth of all is trust the CDC and trust the FDA. Maybe we're getting to a better spot to trust them as RFK Jr. takes over, but trust the CDC and trust the FDA is not where I want to be or where I want our doctors coming out, because that leads to nothing but disaster in all of this. So I saw on with Dale Bigtree, who runs a great podcast looking into this, a neuroscientist by the name of Andrew Huberman talking about the medical textbooks. Take a listen to this.
A good friend of mine who's a chair of neurosurgery, perhaps one of the greatest neurosurgeons ever to live, I asked him, I said, what percentage of the information in medical school textbooks in the United States and elsewhere is inaccurate, is just false, and we know it? And he said, at least half, given the new information. And then a good friend of mine said to him in the same conversation, what do you think the impact of that is on human health and the treatment of disease, et cetera? And he said, incalculable.
Half the information in medical textbooks today is wrong? Now, you know the left's going to go crazy over that. The left's going to tell us that, we couldn't be more wrong about this. And here's old Stinchfield again, pushing false information. I'm telling you right now, Big Pharma is the problem. Can they come up with medications that can help people? I'm sure they can. All right, I take an asthma inhaler after every 2 years. I come down with a little asthma. That asthma inhaler helps me. Well, a pharmaceutical company comes up with that. But overall, on these medications, specifically the vaccines, by the way, it's all about money. Everything Big Pharma does is about money. And then you've got the advertising and TV. So now you've got Big Pharma controlling the advertising, which means if they control the advertising, they're controlling the money flow into the big networks. The big networks aren't going to question Big Pharma. They pull the same scheme with the universities. So they donate all kinds of big money to these medical schools, and medical schools aren't going to question Big Pharma. They want the money train to continue. The textbooks, well, if you can buy off the textbooks and put in even drugs inside textbooks of what should be used to treat certain things, and those textbooks hang around for 10, 15 years, even when I'm sure new drugs have been created that are better than the old ones, you're basically solidifying yourself into profitability, all through what I amount to bogus information. So these myths are cemented into the curriculum at medical schools. I don't know how anybody would be surprised by all of this. So when you look at this, agencies should be calling this out. The FDA, the CDC, because the FDA and the CDC is relying on the very same experts that are being used to write the textbooks. And now they say RFK Jr., you know why he's the most dangerous guy? Because he, quote, sounds believable. So we're going to go after RFK Jr., the Secretary of Health and Human Services, because he sounds believable. Maybe he sounds believable because he is. This guy is one of the worst purveyors of misinformation that's out there, Dr. Paul Offit. Here's a left-wing podcast host. You can always tell the left-wing podcast host because their haircuts give them away in a heartbeat. Okay? Asking Offit a question.
In your column, which I think we need to put out there, you write, people will think that because he sounds like he knows what he's talking about, that he actually does. And that's, you just said that. He says a few words here and there. And most people, including elected officials, will think he knows what he's talking about.
Right. That's exactly right. That's one of the many reasons which makes him dangerous.
Do you hear what he just said? The reason RFK Jr. is dangerous now is because he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. I hope they think I'm dangerous because I hope I sound like I know what I'm talking about. And in fact, this is why, you know, we're so censored on YouTube and these other outlets that don't want to let us have any say in what's going on. So again, they think you're dangerous, not because you sound like you know what you're talking about, but they think you're dangerous because you know what you're talking about. Now, this Paul Offit went on. You know the folks over at the Wellness Company have been so instrumental in exposing the dangers of the COVID vaccine and many other vaccines for that matter. And even more than that, it's exposing the hypocrisy within the medical community and their marriage to Big Pharma, okay, and how that ends up hurting the American public in, quote, incalculable ways. Paul Offit said the myocarditis that was caused by the COVID vaccines was a small price to pay. Now, do you understand that people died with myocarditis? You had young people, teenagers, dropping over dead because of an enlarged heart caused by the COVID vaccine, and he claims that's a small price to pay?
You know that there is going to be some serious, rare adverse event that's going to be seen when you give it to hundreds of millions of people that you didn't see when you gave it to just tens of thousands of people. And that's what happened. And in the case of the mRNA vaccines, it was myocarditis, which is inflammation of the heart muscle. It occurred primarily initially within 4 days of dose 2 in boys and young men between 16 and 29 years.
So first off, if you acknowledge that it happened within 4 days of dose 2, why did we continue giving dose 2 specifically to boys in that age range? Because Big Pharma mandated it. The CDC didn't really mandate it. I mean, technically it comes from the CDC, but it's Big Pharma's mandate because of the revolving door at the CDC, everybody looking to enrich themselves. You've got clear and convincing evidence that even now, and I find it rich that Paul Offit is acknowledging that myocarditis is an issue when we were told that we were laughed at when we raised the issue of myocarditis. And now you got Offit out there on the front lines saying, oh, yeah, it was an issue, but only after 4 days of dose 2, and now it does great things. Well, why didn't you cancel this after 4 days of dose 2 when you knew people were going to die? And instead, he goes on to say, this is a small price to pay.
And for the most part was transient, self-resolving, short-lived. Now, according to the CDC, for the last 3 years, we haven't seen myocarditis as a consequence of this vaccine, probably because we have a highly immune population that's either been multiply naturally infected or multiply vaccinated. So the incidence of myocarditis has gone to the point we don't see it anymore.
Wait, hold on a second. He's talking about natural immunity, something else we were ridiculed over. Do you know why we don't see myocarditis anymore, if that's even the case, okay? Is because nobody's taking dose 2 anymore. Nobody's taking this COVID vaccine. The American public has now seen that I, as a 56-year-old man, never took the COVID vaccine. I got COVID twice in my life. I now have what I believe is some natural immunity. I don't get COVID anymore. I have nothing to worry about. And my parents, who are boosted 86 ways to Sunday, get COVID every 2 months. The American public realized the vaccine doesn't work. So if the American public isn't taking the COVID vaccine and never getting to dose 2 anymore, then why do you think we'd see myocarditis? We wouldn't, because nobody's taking the vaccine. Come on, Offit.
That was a very, very small price to pay for this vaccine.
Oh,
as distinct, say, from the J&J vaccine, the Johnson & Johnson adenovirus vector vaccine, which was a rare cause of clotting, which was severe and could be fatal, and ultimately drove that vaccine off the market. So I think the mRNA COVID vaccines in the world of vaccinology were remarkably safe and remarkably effective. He's picked on the wrong vaccine.
Oh, really? Talk about RFK picking on the wrong vaccine. A small price to pay when you had all of these young athletes, mainly young male athletes, that were dropping over like flies. Now, when we talk about the textbooks, what are the textbooks going to say about the COVID vaccine? I promise you, they're going to say they were safe and effective and that they should still be given today. And you had the American Academy of Pediatrics still offering up the COVID vaccine should be taken by kids when the CDC now recommends against it. Because the CDC now is finally science-based recommendations, not Big Pharma-based recommendations. So these medical textbooks are going to be pushing something that is absolutely dangerous. Again, Big Pharma paying ghostwriters to write sections of these medical textbooks that then hang around for 10 to 15 years. It's a travesty, really. Here's the thing. There are prescription medications that you do need. Things like amoxicillin for strep throat, things like ivermectin, if you, God forbid, come down with COVID. Ivermectin now treating a whole host of things. This is the field kit. This is even bigger than the other kit that I showed you. The field kit by the Wellness Company has steroids in here, in case you need those. It's got an EpiPen in here. This is such an important thing. I always say, especially if you have kids, they're coming over, they have allergic reactions to something, a bee sting, you want to have an EpiPen on hand. You'll save a life with one of these on hand. There is the guidebook in this field kit. If you are into prepping, okay, which I'm not the most outrageous prepper there is. Here's methylprednisolone. This is the steroid I was talking about. I'm not the most outrageous prepper that there is, but I like to be prepared. This field kit is about being prepared. So you've got all these medications in here that you or your family could use in case of an emergency. Again, I urge you to go on, get one of these field kits, or get the smaller kit. start with this one. twc.health/grant. That's twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. All right. As we go through some of these sound bites, one of the problems is that the mainstream media doesn't want to report on facts. So, again, Dale Bigtree, who's been running such a great alternative media site, has on some great doctors. This is Paul Thomas. They are trying to cancel him. Yes, the cancellation of doctors who speak the truth is still happening. I want you to listen to this.
Your license has been emergently suspended. And I said, why? He says, well, they had an emergency meeting and you are a threat to public health.
For doing science, for saying, hey, I
see a problem.
I'm just showing you the data.
Right.
I have a very large practice. I can show you the kids. I can show you all that data.
Yep.
And it's saying what it's saying, and that makes me dangerous.
Right.
Here's some of the data, just so all of you can see it. I mean, look at this. You've got asthma. Look, the red line is those that are vaccinated. The blue line that are unvaccinated. Allergic rhinitis. I mean, they're all through the roof. Breathing issues. ADHD. Look at that. I mean, it's almost completely a vaccine injury. Respiratory infections, ear pain, eye disorders. Eczema, something that our poor kids, and by the way, eczema, my understanding is eczema used to be considered a vaccine injury, really. Like, if they started getting a rash, it would be like, don't vaccinate.
Don't vaccinate. Yeah, you go back 40 years and 50 years ago, that's absolutely true. We have since been trained, pediatricians today are trained that eczema has nothing to do with vaccines.
That's crazy.
And in fact, all these things that have shown with statistical significance in a very well done peer-reviewed study that these are directly related.
And so now they're trying to cancel this guy. He literally studied. I've got the study here in front of me. It's on the phone. Otherwise, I would have put it up on the screen. I apologize about that. He took 3,324 children and found that of those 3,300 children, the unvaccinated kids had fewer doctor visits and better health outcomes. Fever, 9.3 times higher in vaccinated children. Ear pain, 3.4 times higher in the vaccinated. Ear infections, 3 times higher. Conjunctivitis, 2.5 times higher. Eye disorders, 1.8 times higher. You realize if you're 2 times higher, that's double, okay? These are huge numbers. You ready for this? And this is big. I just talked about my asthma. Now, maybe it's from vaccines. I don't know. You know, I did go to Nicaragua, and I got loaded up on vaccines. Now, this is going back 6-7 years ago to build houses for poor people. And I don't want to get malaria and all these other crazy diseases. So I went and I got vaccinated. They pumped me through with like 6 or 10 different vaccines. Maybe that's what caused my asthma, because I haven't had it until about 3 years ago. Who knows? But asthma, 5.2 times higher in the vaccinated children than the unvaccinated. Hay fever, 7 times higher in the vaccinated. This goes on and on and on. He talked about eczema, 4.5 times higher. I now get eczema as well. ADHD. Listen to this. This is the most shocking. You have 3,300 vaccinated children. ADHD, which is like one of the most common things among kids. I always say it's probably an overdiagnosed disease. Every kid that's crazy probably needs a little stronger parenting. I know parents are going to get mad at me for saying this. And we're making excuses for kids that just have high energy. But I also do believe there is an increase in ADHD, okay? I'm not saying it's not real. I'm just saying, you know what? You're a crazy kid, you can rein them in. And the reason I say this is my kid was diagnosed with ADHD, but we put him on a little medication. It was a disaster, took him off the medication. He's flourishing in school. I managed to try to rein him in, put a little more boundaries on him. Yes, he's got a lot of energy, so you know what we do? We do more physical exercise. Next thing you know, I don't think the ADHD affects him like the doctors told us it would. So I'm curious about this, but I digress. ADHD in the 3,324 children in the unvaccinated category, not one case of ADHD. Not one. Folks, is that not crazy? To me, it absolutely is. So now begins the war on RFK Jr. And this goes back a little ways, but this is a woman by the name of Diane DeGette. She is a congresswoman from California. And I'm going to put her up there as one of the dopiest members of Congress we have. Diane DeGette, double D, you are a dingbat, ding dong, double D. Okay? Listen, and I'm going to prove to you just how much of a ding dong she is because I pull some great clips.
Of research dollars, injected politics into science, and damaged the public trust. 68 Nobel laureates signed this letter. On June 10th, we sent you a letter. Of course, we haven't gotten a response with our concerns that you or your staff might retaliate against them for telling the truth. So here's my question. Will you commit today that neither you or anyone else at HHS will take any retaliatory action against the brave scientists that work at NIH? This should be an easy answer because it's illegal.
I can commit that we are absolutely depoliticizing science at NIH.
Will you commit that you will not take any
Biden administration, Ms. Chairwoman, the Biden administration politicizes science, and I just gave you 3 of thousands of examples of how they did that.
Excuse me, sir. I asked you a simple question. Will you commit to not taking retaliatory action against the NIH scientists that signed the letter about the research dollars? Yes or no?
I don't know anything about that letter.
You don't know about the letter?
No,
okay.
I don't know anything about that letter. This is the first
we'll
I've
put
heard
that.
of it.
We already put that, our question in the record. I'd like a response. Now, in my last few minutes, in our letters dated February 28th, April 1st.
Is she not annoying? Is this not typical of liberals? I told you, and I've told you before, the white liberal woman is the most dangerous, creature on the face of the earth. This is one of them. Not only are they dopey, not only are they uninformed, not only are they whiny, not only do they cackle, not only do they raise issues about things that they get it completely wrong, they attack people who are great patriotic Americans who want the best for all of us, like RFK Jr. Do I dare play more of her?
May 28th, to which you did not respond, we have some questions about reductions in force. How many HHS employees received RIF notices since you were sworn in?
I think around 10,000.
10,000.
So a court stopped that. Well, the court then redecided and said it's okay to let some of them go. And just this week, 600 CDC workers let go. This is about reducing the size of the workforce that is beholden to Big Pharma and not beholden to the American people. We don't need a massive workforce. We need smart people inside the CDC and the FDA that are looking out after us, not looking out after the money men over at Big Pharma. So I told you she's a ding-dong, right? Well, listen to this.
Briefly, to your last question, what's the efficacy of banning these magazine clips? I will tell you, these are ammunition. They're bullets.
Wait. Magazines in a firearm are bullets? No, they're not. Magazines hold bullets, and they're not called magazine clips, okay? So if you're going to be an anti-gunner, you ought to get it right. Now, the reason I play this in a basically medically directed podcast sponsored by the wellness company is to prove to you how dumb these people are that are setting policy.
So the people who have those now, they're going to shoot them. And so if you ban them in the future, the number of these high-capacity magazines is going to decrease dramatically over time because the bullets will have been shot and there won't be any more available.
Wait, what? Because the bullets have been shot in the room. You're banning the magazines or you're banning the bullets? Or does she not understand what's the difference between both? I'm not sure. I think she thinks high-capacity magazines is some name of a bullet. Maybe. Ding dong. Again, here she is again.
Has done in addressing the COVID pandemic. And I think it is wrong for people to put false statements forward about the vaccine. This vaccine is safe, it's effective, and it saved millions of lives around the world.
Wrong. It is not. It's not safe and effective. It hasn't saved millions of lives. In fact, we can prove to you that it's cost millions of lives. And that's the sad reality, folks. It really, really is. Hey, I just completed my parasite cleanse, and I feel better than I have ever felt before. I swear, folks, I think I was suffering from freaking parasites. I don't have bloat in my stomach like I had before. It was just a bloated stomach. At 56 years old, I see a lot of older guys in the gym with it. And I'm like, okay, well, that just happens when you get older. You get this barrel belly. Not fat, but bloat. After 21 days on this mebendazole ivermectin parasite cleanse, my bloat is gone. All right, I'm feeling good. And my skin is cleared up. So then I start to learn that parasites can cause skin infections. They can cause all kinds of problems. And the parasites are found in your food in the grocery store. 60 million Americans may have it. That's in salmon at a local grocery store. This stuff is absolutely disgusting. So when I learned that if you have pets, you probably have parasites, then I needed to get on the wellness company's parasite cleanse. And that's exactly what I did. So easy to sign up. twc.health/grant. Mebendazole and ivermectin. This is the gold standard when it comes to parasite cleanses. Sold out 3 times, back in stock. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT. The link is in the description of this video as well. twc.health/grant. Use that promo code GRANT for 10% off. I'm telling you, folks, you are going to be so happy you got on this parasite cleanse. The difference in just the way my body looks and the way I feel is tremendous. 21-day course. That's it. And ivermectin, mebendazole, proven beyond a shadow of doubt to help you get rid of parasites. twc.health/grant, promo code GRANT for 10% off. Going to the comments in the Rumble station from Craig Muttley. Be sure to thank Rockefeller for taking over every aspect of the science and medical fields, removing natural medicine and replacing everything that was with pharma's petroleum medicine. It's a great point, to say the least. So this is what happens when you've got idiots running government like that Diane DeGette. When you have idiots, you get idiot outcomes. And that's what we're trying to get away from. Getting the idiots out of government, getting smart people in. And I'm grateful for the Wellness Company for supporting this podcast. twc.health/grant. Use the promo code GRANT for 10% off. Again, emergency medical kits are great. Don't forget my website, GrantStinchfield.com, GrantStinchfield.com. We'll see you on the Real America's Voice show tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern time. And we've got a very big show as President Trump has a cabinet meeting today. We'll bring you all the latest on Stinchfield tonight on Real America's Voice, 7 p.m. Eastern time. Please like the video, share it as well. Stinchfield's Army rolls because of all of you. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you tomorrow.